The British government has announced a tax cut that would boost the budgets of 30 million people across the country. This will be achieved by raising the income threshold at which workers are required to make national insurance payments. It'll cost the government more than $7 billion in foregone revenue and will help the UK's lowest salary earners. Downing Street is also proposing a reduction in value-added taxes on consumer goods. The levy currently stands at 20%. The moves come amid a worsening cost of living crisis rooted in the rising price of food and fuel due to the crisis in Ukraine. Consumer prices in the UK rose more than 9% in June, the fastest pace in 4 decades. Now, for more, let's hear from Susannah Streeter, investment analyst at Hargreaves Landsdown. She joins us now from Bristol. Welcome back to the program, Susannah. Now, Downing Street proposing some tax cuts to help consumers, but will these make any real difference, or are these just political stunts by Boris Johnson and company?
Well, certainly the government clearly feels it has to come up with something more to try and alleviate the cost of living crisis, because it's come under a lot of criticism for not doing enough. So there are more plans to cut the fuel duty, for example, because the last cut of just 5p really was seen as a drop in the ocean compared to the huge hikes we're seeing at the pumps. There is also expected to be some more targeted support for some of the poorer people in society. But interestingly, the editorial yesterday that outlined some of the measures being proposed mentioned this £400 for every household to help with energy bills. Now, that had already been announced. Not expecting anything new there. So it seems as though there are a few new proposals, but a rehash of other measures that had already been put on the table. So I don't think it's actually going to go that far in really making a big difference, with inflation running at 9.1% and forecast to rise to 11% by the end of the year.
So what then can and should policymakers be considering to have a lasting impact on giving relief to consumers across the UK?
Well, that's a very tricky question, certainly one that politicians themselves are going to be really asking themselves in the months to come. There is an argument, of course, that actually by cutting corporation tax could stimulate investment in companies and greater productivity down the line, which in turn will help the overall economy. But that doesn't look likely. In fact, corporation tax is set to rise. So in terms of actually helping consumers themselves, well, actually, there doesn't seem to be a lot else on offer right now. And we're hearing that actually we could see prices rising in the shops for another 7 to 12 months, because it takes time for those consumer prices to feed through. Certainly, what consumers themselves are doing is they're trading down to some extent to more value brands and discount retailers. We've seen, for example, the likes of Lidl and Aldi in the grocery sector really gaining market share on this kind of price competition, very fierce competition going on right now. So consumers themselves are making choices. They're ring fencing their budgets. They're not spending so much money on delayable goods such as furniture, for example, and household goods in the shops. We saw that in the latest retail sales figures. They're ring fencing instead their remaining budgets for experiences if they can afford to do so. But certainly there doesn't seem to be that much else that politicians are putting forward to try and ease the burden right now.
All right, so a lot of belt tightening in the UK. Susannah Streeter joining us from Bristol. Thank you.